Is China the new America? In the aftermath of 2 world wars and a worldwide depression, the United States emerged as the largest, strongest, and most influential economy on the globe. It replaced Great Britain at the top of the economic food chain after nearly 2 centuries of British dominance. According to Foreign Policy magazine, the U.S. is on the verge of being supplanted as the world's foremost economic power by China, much in the same way that the United States ascended past Great Britain. The United States used its wealth to build up an unchallenged military, and had so much excess that it was able to go on a spending spree, which eventually led to the breakup of the Soviet Union. Now, it seems that the era of American primacy may be quickly coming to an end. Following the Great Depression and the Second World War, the U.S. was able to replace a financially exhausted Great Britain. In our new depression, it is the United States who is financially exhausted, and it is China who is waiting in the wings to replace us. It was only a matter of time before the U.S. replaced Great Britain. We have several times their population, many times their landmass, and more natural resources in most states than can be found in the entire British Isles. Likewise, the Chinese have a vastly larger population than the U.S., and though they do not technically have more domestic resources, their reserves are certainly comparable to our own. They have also managed to acquire an even greater pool of vital resources, such as oil, through international agreements. The United States passed the British when we were the world's creditor and they were one of its largest debtors. We are now by far the world's largest debtor, several times over, and the single largest creditor to this country is the Chinese government. The stage is already set for a passing of the torch. The U.S. recently surpassed $11 trillion in outstanding debt. The Chinese government, on the other hand, holds nearly $2 trillion in currency reserves and is flush with a massive sovereign wealth fund. China is set to play a much greater role in the international economy in years to come. A decade ago, they were a mere participant. A decade from now, they will likely be the unquestioned leader. The only difference may be the way that China approaches the beleaguered economies of the rest of the world. After World War II, the United States instituted the Marshall Plan in Europe and rebuilt Japan, South Korea, and mainland China after years of devastation. After the communist victory on the mainland, the United States' efforts were focused on the now mighty island economy of Taiwan. The British could have been allowed to collapse into a heap, but the United States intentionally propped them up. In a China-dominated world, they may choose to do the same, or they could choose to use their position of centrality for their own benefit only. It is on this last count that Jonathan Halslag, head of research for the Brussels Institute of Contemporary China Studies, while also writing for Foreign Policy magazine, believes that China's newly found dominance will be most evident. According to Halslag, it is very likely that China's influence will prove to be transformative for U.S. capitalism, pushing America to a more statist model, more reliant on state-owned business than on the private sector. Halslag points out that the U.S. is already moving in this direction with the recent rash of state-funded bailouts. The Chinese government has always favored a statist approach. This goes back over 1,000 years before anyone had ever heard of Karl Marx or the Communist Party. They see stability in state direction, and the Obama administration may have already been forced to adopt a sort of Beijing consensus on this point. The government takeover of corporate America, which began under George W. Bush, is very in tune with Chinese policies. Private investment and private enterprise are cherished in the U.S., but for all of the profit that they may bring, there are also many instances of wasted effort. The Chinese would rather use a more guided approach, rather than rely on the whims of individual preferences. If the United States hopes to maintain its position at the top of the worldwide economy, it must take steps to retake some of what has been lost to China over the years. This would start by bringing back our means of production, and eventually by reversing the outflow of our currency. If China wants to hostilely take over the world economy, the U.S. would be served to at least make them work for it. On behalf of concerned citizens, I'm Craig Harrington. For more on this and other related topics, please log on to economyincrisis.org.
Wake up, America! Open up your eyes! Wake up, America! Wake up!
Produced by economyincrisis.org.